Good morning, Andover. First of all, please join me in showing our appreciation to Ethan Leo, class of 26. I'm often reminded that Andover's influence reaches far beyond this campus. It lives on through our alumni and the extraordinary ways that they carry our values into the world. And today, we come together to celebrate that enduring connection through the Andover Alumni Award of Distinction. This is the 14th annual Finis Origine Pendet all-school meeting. Today, we will honor 3 extraordinary alums who are the recipients of this year's Alumni Award of Distinction. Launched in 2011, the award recognizes and honors alumni of Phillips Academy and Abbott Academy who served with distinction and exhibited leadership in the arts, sciences, humanities, and other significant fields of endeavor. These awardees are selected by a dedicated committee of alumni who read hundreds of profiles of deserving alumni, which is a challenging task. To that committee here today, thank you. For our recipients today, their time at Andover was a beginning which helped to shape who they became. As you might imagine, they have much more to say about their journeys at this later in the all-school meeting today. And if you're interested in hearing more, they will be in the mural room in Peresky Commons following all-school meeting. You're all welcome to come by and have lunch with them or just to say hello. So Pablo, Ruth, John, I hope your time on campus has been enriched by meeting the student body at dinner last night and their class this morning. I've already heard there was some spirited conversations at class this morning. That's great. Andover continues to be a special place because of the remarkable students who bring it to life every day in every classroom. It feels especially fitting then that our students play a central role in today's celebration. The 2025 recipients will be introduced and formally presented with their awards by Andover current students. To begin, I happily turn the program over to Elise Sang, class of 2026.
Good morning, Andover. I'm Elise, a senior from Katy, Texas. When I first learned about Mr. Pablo Durana's work, what struck me most was not just his impressive list of accomplishments, but the immersion that drives his storytelling. As an adventure filmmaker, Mr. Durana has spent over 2 decades traveling across all 7 continents, capturing human resilience in some of the world's most challenging environments. Born in Colombia, raised in Canada, and now based in California, Mr. Durana has built a career dedicated to educating, inspiring, and driving change around pressing global issues, particularly environmental and cultural preservation through film. His journey began in 2004 as a Birch Fellow at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he embarked on a 4-month, 2,700-mile bicycle journey through Western China with his sister. Together, they explored and documented the lives of the region's 56 minority populations. Reflecting on the experience, he said, "The passion for travel and storytelling exploded, and I never looked back." In these past 2 decades, his lens has followed stories from the first Afghan women's mountaineering expedition to ivory poaching in Africa to first descent mountaineering in Antarctica. His collaborations include Innocent, the Oscar-winning short about a homeless, undocumented artist, and Life According to Sam, an Emmy-winning and Oscar shortlisted documentary about a teenager living with progeria. Most recently, he completed his directorial debut feature documentary, No Legs, All Heart, about Andrei Kylik, the first double amputee to compete in the 3,000-mile race across America. As an artist myself, just beginning to explore storytelling through art, I'm inspired by how Mr. Durana fully immerses himself in the worlds he documents. His work reminds us that the most powerful art comes from stepping beyond observation and into experience. It is my great honor to present the 2025 Alumni Award of Distinction to Pablo Durana, class of 2002.
Hey everyone. Thanks for that introduction. Gosh, I've spent 20 years being behind the camera. It feels a little strange kind of being the focus. But it really is humbling to be here, and it really is an honor, and I'm thankful to the committee for giving me this recognition. I mean, Andover is an awesome place. Like, the alumni, the legacy that it's had, there's so many alumni that have come out that have had so much impact in this world, and a lot of that is because of the culture that this school nurtures. When I first came here, it was really intimidating. I was in this space with so many smart kids who were so driven, and it was a little bit overwhelming for me, and I was a new upper, and I kind of felt like I was already behind the curve. There's so much happening. So it took me a while to kind of get into the flow. But after a while, that intimidation turned into excitement. This is an awesome place to surround yourself with so many talented people, and to, drive yourself with this energy and to learn. It's really wonderful, and I was really proud to be here as a PA student. I worked really hard to get here, and I know all of you here have worked really hard to be here. And I truly see this as a privilege. We're all privileged to be here. And so, what do we do with this privilege? And I think the non-CIBI philosophy, really rang true to me. I wanted to, make a difference and have an impact. So I did a lot of volunteering here, and that was really fulfilling. But when I started thinking about a career, I got really nervous because I can't volunteer my entire life. I need to find a career. But I just didn't know what I could do that could have impact, that would be fulfilling for me, and that I can make a living out of. And that's when I started feeling, all this anxiety. I just didn't know what I was going to do. I took biology. I thought maybe I could be a doctor. I took political science. Maybe I could be a lawyer. And, these two professions I thought were really amazing, and you could really make a big difference. But something just wasn't clicking with me. I took this incredible photography class, but I always thought, photography was something you could do as a hobby. So I never really took that seriously. So fast forward to college, and I still don't know what I'm going to do. And I have all this anxiety. This graduation clock is ticking, and I'm just feeling all this pressure. And so I decided to, hit the pause button. I was really lucky. I got this travel scholarship, and like Elise was saying, I took a semester off, and I biked across China. And I did that with my sister. I'm really close with my sister. We're twins, but we're separated by 5 years. And so it was really special to experience that with her. And the funny thing is that I had to give a presentation of my experience, and I really don't like public speaking, which is ironic right now. But I was able to convince the committee. I asked them if I could, make a documentary or make a film. And they said yes. So it was really the first time that I got my hands on a video camera. And that was it for me. I fell in love with storytelling. And I saw the power of storytelling as a vessel for inspiration and for impact, to educate people. And that was it. I found my passion. I don't tell people that I'm lucky to be where I am, because I've worked really, really hard. I've had a lot of mentors that have helped me along the way, but I feel lucky to have found my passion. turn the page. With documentaries, you humanize the story. I mean, it's easy to watch the news and to kind of scroll through, but what I found with documentaries is you're putting a face to an issue, and you get people to care, and when you bring emotions, and get people to care, I think that's when you can see real change. I'll take a side note. I've spent like hours and hours hiking in like negative 30-degree weather, set up my rope, hanging off a cliff, and I forget my camera battery. I've hung out with Michelle Obama in Liberia and witnessed this. She's awesome, by the way. And I witnessed this really awesome moment where she was talking to all these delegates from all these different African nations, and she was talking about the importance of girl education. And I was so captivated by it, I forgot to hit the record button. And that really sucks, and I've made plenty of mistakes, and you guys are gonna make plenty of mistakes, and I think the important thing is like, it's okay. We all fail, but it's like what you do from that failure and how you learn and how you grow from it. So just kind of keep that in mind. And if I were to leave, one other piece of advice is, try to find your passion. And it'll take some of you much longer to find your passion. Like, I feel lucky that I found it early on, but you might even find it in your 30s or in your 40s. But if you do find the passion, like, just pursue it. Take that chance and try to make that happen, because if you live your life with passion and with intention, that's when you show up as your best self, and that's when I think you could really make a change in this world. So, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sahana Manikandan. I am a senior from Princeton, New Jersey, and on campus, I live in Samaritan. As someone who's deeply interested in the law and its power to create change, it is my honor to introduce someone whose career embodies justice, empathy, and leadership. An Andover graduate of 1979, Ruth Harlow continued her learning at Stanford University studying political science and then earned a law degree at Yale Law School. In the late 1980s and early 2000s, when LGBTQ and HIV rights were still uncertain, Harlow and her small group of colleagues helped lay the groundwork for equality. At the ACLU and Lambda Legal, she fought censorship, defended free speech, and expanded access to justice, using the law to protect those who were often left without a voice. Her work reflects the kind of advocacy that first drew me into the field, using precise legal reasoning to address inequity and transform principles into lasting change. Her advocacy reached the nation's highest court in 2000 when Harlow served on the co-counsel of the Boy Scouts of America versus Dale, representing an Eagle Scout who was expelled for being gay, and later on became the lead counsel in the Lawrence versus Texas case, the landmark 2003 Supreme Court case that struck down laws criminalizing same-sex intimacy. That decision not only overturned decades of discrimination, but also laid the groundwork for marriage equality for decades to come. For her leadership in that case, Harlow was named the Lawyer of the Year by the National Law Journal in 2003. Ms. Harlow is known for her unwavering integrity and pursuit of excellence, transforming how we approach many of society's most pressing issues. Her journey, blending legal acumen with empathy and strategic rigor with human connection, serves as a reminder that success isn't measured by outcomes alone, but by the people and principles that guide them. After her groundbreaking work with Lambda Legal and the ACLU, she transitioned to new arenas of public service. She joined a major commercial firm in New York City and then returned to public interest work to fight for reproductive rights. Most recently, she's applied her leadership to expanding affordable housing through the NYC Department of Housing Preservation and Development, demonstrating that her commitment to equity extends beyond the courtroom to communities and homes. And so, it is my great honor to present the 2025 Alumni Award of Distinction to Ruth Harlow, class of 1979.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I really appreciate Andover recognizing my work with this award, and I'm very grateful for the amazing start that Andover gave to me. And I'm also grateful for this chance to meet with all of you and experience another generation's great energy. As I reflect on my time at Andover, and my path, there are a couple of lessons that I wish I had more fully understood earlier, and I'll share those with you in case they might be helpful. First, while the end does depend upon the beginning, we've all heard finis origine pendent, it's unlikely to be a straight line. My own career and life experiences have been more of a zigzag and a push-pull. Andover taught me deep thinking skills and the rewards of curiosity, and those have taken me far, but I ended up with a much different trajectory than I could ever have foreseen sitting here as a student. Second, I've learned that academic and career successes can be very rewarding, but those can't guarantee happiness. For that, emotional health and personal relationships play a huge part. You're lucky that Andover today tries to pay more attention to those aspects of human flourishing than it or society did when I was here decades ago. I landed at Andover in 1975, just 2 years after the Andover-Abbott merger. And I came here from a small, rather isolated town in the middle of Michigan. When my parents said goodbye to me on Chapel Avenue, I thought, what have I gotten myself into? I still remember being sick to my stomach and seeing all the kids around me who seemed so much more sophisticated, and I had lots of fears about fitting in. But on the other hand, walking around Andover and soaking up this place made it very real to me that individual, ordinary human beings made history. If Paul Revere sat down to design the Andover seal and George Washington walked through the mailroom or on the same land as the mailroom sits now, maybe I could play a role in history too. So granted, all the famous names that I saw were men, but it was the dawn of coeducation and women's lib, and I was going to do my very best to prove myself capable of great things. Now, none of those great things had anything to do with gay rights or civil rights. My ambition in high school was to become a research scientist. Like other ambitious girls and women at the time, though, I held myself to incredibly high standards, and I shied away from showing any vulnerability. And I'll tell you a story about the Philippian that'll give you a sense of that too extreme determination. I loved sports. I loved writing about sports. I'd covered football, the head of the Charles, the whole gamut, and all the signs pointed towards me being the next sports editor of the Philippian. Yet after the prior Philippian board met, I was named only co-sports editor. Some of the prior board did not think a girl could do that job alone, so they named a boy a co-editor. Those older students' doubts just pushed me to prove them wrong. My male co-editor was a really good guy, but much less invested in the paper. I proceeded to set a pace and an agenda for our work that aimed to grind him down. That's not the lesson. And I did eventually grind him down. By the end of that year, he had resigned, and I was the only sports editor. While I loved my time at the Philippian and I had many good memories, I still regret the ruthlessness of my behavior towards my co-sports editor, and I had let a desire to prove myself cloud my humanity. I also fear that, as many of you do today, I was holding myself to unrealistic standards, and I had bought into perfectionism and competition in ways that didn't really serve me and that are unlikely to serve you as well. But luckily, I had an innate sense that I needed to course correct. Instead of going to the most academically intense path that was available to me, I decided to choose my college based upon its country club reputation. Stanford was not as serious at the time, and I focused on having a very full social life there. Also, seeing scientists working alone in their labs late at night, I realized that research science might not be so great a path and that it might be very isolating. While I began to shift towards the law, because at the same time, I was learning about civil rights law and Supreme Court litigation in a great freshman seminar with an inspiring teacher. So I continued to instinctively feel my way along after I realized I was gay and came out in law school. I worked to develop the best skills I could as a lawyer, but I also learned to work more effectively with others. In around 1990, as you heard, I became one of the few full-time litigators working on gay rights and HIV-related issues. And even though the dozen or so of us that were doing this nationally worked for different nonprofit organizations, we met in person several times a year to discuss challenges and plan strategy. And for over a decade, we educated judges and the public and chipped away at injustices so that we could win a case like Lawrence. And after that, marriage equality and other milestones followed. Advocating for gay and lesbian rights and fair treatment for those with HIV definitely involved a sustained individual effort. I worked on about 80 high-impact cases over that period, but the critical factor was collaboration. By the time we were litigating Lawrence, the core team of 5 of us would say that the case was the highlight of our professional careers, not just because of the victory, but because of the camaraderie and the shared, very high-quality effort. And even though I was lead counsel on Lawrence, I did not feel I had to be the one standing up in the Supreme Court in the limelight if that wasn't the best strategy. Instead, I made the decision to put a ringer forward, an exceptionally talented gay man who specialized in Supreme Court oral arguments, and I worked with him to craft the most effective oral presentation, building on our joint written work, a much different and more fulfilling experience than my attitude towards my co-sports editor. After Lawrence, though, I felt I needed to course correct again. That Supreme Court decision was about family and the freedom to form intimate relationships, yet I was then single and hadn't really figured out family life. Fast forward, my spouse Deidre and I have just sent our 18-year-old son away to college and seen him graduate from high school, and I'm as proud of and satisfied by those family roles as I am of my career successes. And if anything, they've required more of me. In thinking about your future, I would encourage you to develop human and emotional intelligence as your superpower. In the age of artificial intelligence, I would zig when so many others are zagging. You're coming into adulthood when almost too much information is accessible, when it's too easy to compute, to compare, and rate. But it seems much harder to talk, to be vulnerable, to empathize, and to move forward together. Based on my experience, I believe you will gain much from any efforts you make to better connect and collaborate with others. As the overachievers that you are, though, try not to bring perfectionism, comparison, and excessive pressure to the personal realm and the quest for human connection. just as you don't want those traits to burden your academic and career trajectories. My advice is improvise a bit, keep trying new things, and let life come to you without any perfect plan. With the Andover experience in this community supporting you, I'm confident you will each find your own way along a wonderful path. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nikki Tavicoli, and I'm an upper from here in Andover. And today, I have the honor of helping recognize Mr. John Marks with the Alumni Award of Distinction. Mr. Marks is first and foremost a peacemaker working to overcome societal conflict worldwide. Andover's spirit of non-civi inspired him to pursue this path. When Mr. Marks visited campus last year, he explained, quote, "It wasn't that I felt that I could make a difference. I felt I should make a difference." Mr. Marks is notably the founder and former president of Search for Common Ground, the world's largest peace-building non-governmental organization. After starting his career in a variety of governmental posts, Mr. Marks founded Search for Common Ground in 1982 and built it up with his wife, Susan Collin Marks. He explained Search wanted to, quote, "change the world from a win-lose, you or me environment to a win-win, you and me place." Adopting an optimistic yet pragmatic approach to bridging societal differences, Search's work has helped promote cooperation worldwide. For example, Search's media division, Common Ground Productions, has created TV shows, radio programs, documentaries, and what Mr. Marks describes as soap opera for societal change. These broadcasts have impacted millions of people. For example, researchers have described how one of their programs, a massively popular children's TV series in Macedonia, changed kids' negative mindsets towards different ethnic groups. Search was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018 for its work in global peace building. Mr. Marks stepped down as the president of Search in 2014, though he has been busy since then. He co-founded the Pro Bono Litigation Corps, which supports attorneys in counseling on constitutional cases. Recently, he wrote the book From Vision to Action, Remaking the World Through Social Entrepreneurship. It offers 11 principles for success to aspiring social entrepreneurs or people who found ventures not to make a profit, but to make change. Peace building helps create the safety communities need to thrive. Yes, this work can take decades and can often seem futile, but it is still hugely important because ultimately peace does not come from war or strife, but instead from mutual understanding and the discovery of common ground. It is my great honor to present the 2025 Alumni Award of Distinction to John Marks, class of 1961.
Thank you, Nikki, so much for that. And thank you to the committee for actually selecting me. I'm very grateful. And thank you to Andover for just being Andover. It's a bit ironic for me to come to this building because when I was a student, I hated to come to this building. 4 days a week, we had compulsory chapel, and on Sunday it was longer, so that was the 5th day. And I have to say, I thoroughly disliked the experience, but I got something out of it, which to me was hugely important, because people who stood up here, and I've never stood up on this stage before, but people who stood up here used to talk about this idea of non-civi, not for myself. And it was the thing when I left Andover, I came away with. In other words, I got a notion that I wanted to do something with my life that was different than what my father had done. My father wanted me to go into his business, the insurance business, and he offered me a huge bribe to do it. And I just wasn't at all interested. I just wanted to try to do things that made a difference in the world. So I started out right after university, Cornell. I went into the Foreign Service, and I thought that that would be a way of manifesting my non-civic. Well, I ran into the Vietnam War, and it didn't work for me. I actually went to Vietnam for my first assignment with the State Department. I'm one of the few people of my generation to have gone to Vietnam to have avoided the draft. And I did that, and I resigned in protest a few years later. That wasn't right. And I went to work for an anti-war senator named Clifford Case of New Jersey, who is a dead species at this point. He was a liberal Republican. And the Case Church Amendment was the legislation that ended the Vietnam War. And I was responsible for that in Case's office, along with my counterpart in Church's office. So at the age of 27, I had a chance to end a war that I detested, and it worked. It took a while. But but I was still pretty angry at the world. And I wrote a book about the CIA. I co-authored a book about the CIA, which was called The CIA and the Cult of Intelligence. And I wrote it with a guy who'd been in the CIA for 14 years. And what we were trying to do was show the abuses, to show the misdeeds of our government. And that was a big step for me. And a friend of mine told me I had gone too far, that I would not be able to come back and have a successful career at anything after I did this. But I went ahead, and luckily for me, Watergate happened in the interval, and I went from being an outlaw to being a culture hero. And I had my 15 minutes of fame. But I was still within that non-civic way of trying to be. And at that point, I started doing some personal growth workshops, and I started to get more into my own feelings and my own consciousness. And I saw that the work I was doing was determined, was defined by what I was against. And I saw that I wanted to be for things. I wanted to build a new system rather than tear down the old system, even though the old system at times deserved being torn down, it seemed to me. And in that spirit, I founded Search for Common Ground, which the whole idea was to find ways, cooperative ways of dealing with international and national problems. And I met Susan Collin Marks, who's there, and together we were the leadership of Search for Common Ground. And I had a partner, and that was a very important part of what I did. And we worked for the next, 20-odd years, altogether 30 in my case, to try to make the world a better place, to try to find better relations between the United States and Iran, to work to prevent genocide at places like Burundi, that it was still in keeping with that non-civic way of being. So thank you, Andover. Thank you for, let's say, getting me started, for giving me an idea that stayed with me my whole life. And I'm just very, very grateful to this school, and you all have a wonderful opportunity in front of you. So thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mrs. Savino, and I have the great fun and great privilege of being the director of the Alumni Office here. Thank you to our distinguished alumni for being with us. The strength of the Andover community across generations is what continues to make this school extraordinary. A special thank you to our student speakers who stepped into the spotlight to introduce our guests. Speaking at all school meeting takes courage, and you did so thoughtfully. Thank you. How about a round of applause for our students? Our award recipients today represent three very different journeys, and each remarkable in their own ways. Messages that I hope that you leave with today include Pablo's of finding your passions, Ruth's of leaning into a zigzag path through life, and John, find the work that is rooted in non-civi. As students at Andover, you're called to participate fully in our vibrant and diverse community, to seek out knowledge and to share it. These ideals aren't just aspirations, they're grounded into our mission and woven into our history. As we look towards the future, it's worth remembering that while Andover has evolved in many ways, and it must continue to do so, we are also rooted deeply in the values that define us. I hope today's program has inspired you to use your time at Andover to explore your interests, uncover your passions, and chart your own path forward. And remember to zigzag. To the alumni who've joined me on stage today, thank you for showing us what it means to lead with purpose and to do what you love. And a giant thank you to our committee of volunteers, alumni volunteers, who work hard to put this program together. I invite you to the mural room in Presky Commons to continue the conversation. All school meeting is dismissed.